When I was a kid, not long after Hot Wheels Redlines hit the market, Topper Toys brought out Johnny Lightning diecast cars. I always preferred the Hot Wheels castings above everything else that was available when I was a kid. But the Johnny Lightning cars now kind of fascinate me. When I was a kid, they always seemed to be a little bit off. Just different in a way that I'm not sure why it wasn't appealing to me at the time. But then Hot Wheels were the things to have. Yeah, this one has a little bit of a smile on the front there I'm going to have to fix. Anyhow, this one's obviously play-worn. But I'm looking forward to doing more of these Johnny Lightning topper cars in the future because they are just kind of different. The designs on some of them are really interesting. Anyhow, this one, as you can see, is play-worn. There's not a lot to it. I drill it and tap it and go through the usual process. And the front post on this is virtually non-existent. So at the very end off camera, I do end up using CA glue just to hold the front post in place, even though drilling and tapping out this huge back post was more than sufficient to hold this thing together. It was very easy to drill and tap the back post. The metal on these, just at least on this one, doesn't seem to be up to like the usual quality that you expect from like the old Hot Wheels Redlines. Not that it's terribly bad. Maybe it's a mental thing, but it just doesn't seem as good to me. That being said, even though you see me cleaning this up at really high speed here, I'm just cleaning off a lot of the childhood abuse this thing apparently took. And when it comes to like casting lines, it's not like there was a lot of casting lines or anything. The only spot that really was bad casting wise is that back, the very back of the car that you see there. And it was the same on the base. And maybe that was something unique to the way they cast these. But the swooping lines of the body are pretty good. I tried to just polish it straight up and I wasn't that happy with it. It looked pretty rough still at that point. So again, I hit it with the Scotch-Brite pad again. It was still a little too rough. So then I wet sand it. What I'm going to be doing with this, I'm going for kind of like a Spectraflame style paint, as you would see on a Hot Wheels car. Since I rattlecan, I'm using the Duplicolor Metalcast paint to do this. So I really need to get this thing up to a high shine. I didn't want to use a base coat on it. I really wanted that reflectivity that you get without a base coat. The reflection that you get when you're able to put it on bare metal. So I really wanted to get this to that state. And I pretty much did. And the reason I say pretty much is there are some areas that didn't come out perfectly as well as I had hoped. There you see it after I polished it the last time with Flitz. It's pretty good. I mean, I'm pretty happy with it at this point, but I knew I was going to have to go heavy with the Metalcast paint to kind of hide some of the flaws that are still there. The Metalcast with the Worth clear lacquer, clear gloss lacquer, turns out pretty well. So while that's off drying, I'm working on the base. And the way these axles are held in, and these wheels on this I was really happy with. The axles I did not want to remove because I didn't want to have to try and put them back in. These fit really well. And so I didn't want to ruin that. So I had to polish around them. I polished around them with the Dremel tool, the base as best I could. Then I went over it with the Ren wax that you see here to clean some of that off, polish it a little bit more. It isn't as good as it would have been had I removed the wheels and not been concerned about damaging them. I could have hit this thing a lot harder as far as like with a Scotch-Brite pad, as far as prepping it for the polish. But I'm still satisfied with the results. I hope you think I did the right thing on these. It's not a super shine on the base, but again, I wasn't going for that. It's more of a cleanup polish than trying to get a high shine like I was trying to get on the upper body itself. Interesting thing on this casting is how far forward the seat sits. It's right up there by the windshield. The windshield. There you see some of the paint from the original casting had somehow just, it's not just rubbed off on there, it's like into this plastic pretty deeply. It's almost like over time it just worked its way in. So I did end up sanding it. I ended up going all the way wet sanding it with like 800 grit sandpaper, then 1500, then 3000. Still couldn't get it all out, but I got enough of it out. Then I polished it up with flits, and the result's pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than it was. The glass on this Johnny Lightning casting is really heavy. It's well done. You can tell that glass could take a lot of abuse. It's not thin by any stretch of the imagination. Then it was gauzy, gauzy, gauzy time. Just to finish that off and give it the high gloss shine that I wanted after the sanding with the 3000 grit sandpaper. So, I just dip it and then wick off the excess, then put it in the cover so that no lint or anything gets on it while it's drying. And that pretty much takes care of the glass in the usual way that you see me do maybe hundreds of times by now. So anyhow, it's an interesting little casting. And I do have more Johnny Lightning castings on hand. And some of them are pretty horrific and likely will become customs of some kind. But there will be some restorations as well. And I find them really interesting. I hope you do too. I'm not sure if we see as many Johnny Lightning restorations, the topper Johnny Lightnings. So there you see it, how the body turned out. I'm really happy with it. As you can see, there's a darker color than the original. Again, because I had to go heavier with the Metalcast paint, trying to hide any flaws. I think I pulled it off okay. The gloss clear, I'm thrilled with that gloss clear. It's working out very well for me. I highly recommend that. And as far as the front post on this, like I said before, off camera I end up hitting that with CA glue, but the back post holds this together really well. And I did hammer out as best I could that little front smile that was on there. It was bent a little bit originally. So there's where we started. And as you can tell, I mean, it's play worn, but it's not terrible. It's almost like that little part of the mouth just would have a cigarette in it or something. It's like bent down just slightly. I suppose if I really wanted to mess with that originally, I could have put a piece of wire in there and painted it to look like a cigarette. But no, I bent it back. And here's where it ended up. I'm pretty happy with the results. Again, I always love the Metalcast paints because if you can get that shine you want on the body, I think it comes out really well when you spray that Metalcast directly on. And then that clear lacquer over it. There are some glamour shots coming up. I hope you like what I did with this build. I hope you like that I did a Johnny Lightning, and I hope you're looking forward to more of them because I do plan on doing more of them. So everybody, thanks for watching these videos, and stay safe and healthy out there. And I'll catch you in the next one.